So it looks like we're getting a new Battlefield campaign. The information comes from a job posting for the new studio being set up in Seattle that was announced in December of last year. Job posting is seeking a design director with a job description reading, reporting to the studio GM, you will manage the design team and design vision of a new Battlefield campaign. Your job is to orchestrate the mission design, narrative, game mechanics, and systems to create the highest quality experience possible. So it's unclear if this means we'll be getting a single player only campaign released, almost like an optional paid DLC, or if it'll be a fully fledged game with multiplayer attached as well. My guess is that with Marcus Leto at the helm, if you don't know who he is, he's the guy that built the whole narrative universe for Halo. EA is looking to turn Battlefield into a larger universe of sorts with various games that have different storylines and characters, but all exist within the same narrative universe, with the opportunity for crossovers. That's kind of a mouthful, so let's break it down a little bit. I think having an interconnected universe is pretty straightforward. I'm sure they've seen it working to great effect with Call of Duty as all the developers for those games begin to consolidate their campaigns and plots into one cohesive universe centered around Warzone. I think EA is really trying to leverage their own military universe to have the same interplay that Warzone has. Warzone, the operators and skins are so successful because players develop attachments to those characters from the single player campaigns. And if I asked you to name your favorite character from Call of Duty, I'm sure plenty come to mind. Soap, Price, Roach, Mason, Ghost, and Woods are all names that come to mind immediately. I've really enjoyed the Modern Warfare and the Black Ops campaigns, and I actually do feel somewhat attached to those characters. And it is that narrative attachment that bolsters the success of microtransactions and the live service for these games. Whether or not you think Call of Duty has fun campaigns or really high quality and creative campaigns, they do at least create characters that are memorable. So all of those traditional Call of Duty games with their single player and multiplayer push a narrative and push characters, and at the center of it all is Warzone. That game takes all of the characters and throws them together, and it allows the player to pick who they like to play as. People buy skins for characters they really like. They buy blueprints for guns that they used in multiplayer all the time or in the campaign in their favorite mission. Outside of a character like Irish, Battlefield has never really been able to achieve this, and in my opinion, they haven't had a truly successful single player campaign since Battlefield 3. Campaigns and characters within the games just haven't really gained much traction with the player base. This makes me think about the early marketing of 2042, when the game was being touted as more than just a Battlefield game, but rather a Battlefield platform. With this in mind, my hunch is that EA and DICE, along with the Seattle studio, really want to take the bare bones characters we have in 2042 that are currently in the form of specialists and really build on them in a narrative sense. Provide some of these people some backstories, some motivations, and give them a bit of substance and staying power with the player base, and flesh out the world that they all live in. As it stands now, it's difficult to be interested in any of these specialists. They're all really flat and one note and vague. The world that they live in is very vague as well, and the characters didn't make a great first impression with the cartoony personalities. I imagine these single player experiences will feature a few of these characters in their own stories, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see EA and DICE return to basics and have a gritty, grounded military story. At the center of all of these single player experiences is Battlefield 2042, complete with Portal, All-Out Warfare, and Hazard Zone. Everything a Battlefield player could ever want in one game. Or at least I assume that's what the initial intention was. Obviously 2042 had a disastrous launch and lost a ton of players, likely for good, and it wouldn't surprise me if in the future EA decides to drop 2042 for another game that they can use as the central platform for the Battlefield universe. Interestingly, this isn't really EA's first try at this. If you're unaware, Apex Legends actually canonically takes place within the universe of the Titanfall games. Titanfall unfortunately never really took off, and it's a real shame. Both of the games in that series are some of the most fun FPS games you can play. Titanfall 1 was multiplayer only, but Titanfall 2 has a phenomenal single player, which I still recommend you play to this day, but unfortunately the multiplayer for both games is unplayable. I do still think 2042 is salvageable to suit this platform role though, and Battlefield could possibly succeed from a narrative universe standpoint where Titanfall and Apex couldn't. As long as there's a genuine, authentic effort to bring narrative to this universe, I think that we could create attachments to these characters, and DICE will really have to keep bringing back features, improving performance and stability on 2042, especially bring in an absolute truckload of content if they want to use 2042 as the center of it all. End of the day, gamers will play whatever is good, and there's still time to flip the script on 2042 in the long term. Zero Hour proved it's possible, and I'm sure there are thousands of BF3 and BF4 players just waiting to make the jump to a more modern Battlefield game, if it can reach the same standard as those old classics. I think even most players who vowed to never play 2042 again due to the really horrible first impression would come back if it was legitimately a great game. Regardless, I'm excited for the idea of a narrative-driven Battlefield game. Military FPS games have had pretty weak campaigns for a long time now, and I'd love to see some real creative passion and talent crafting a story and game to grab everyone's attention. That about does it for my thoughts though, and I want to hear from all of you. Are you interested in single-player Battlefield games? Do you enjoy any of the campaigns from the previous games? Do you think EA will leave 2042 behind and try to position a different game as the flagship Battlefield experience? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like. And if you didn't, leave a dislike so I know I need to change something. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all in the next video.